I delivered for a popular food delivery app for about 18 months. This was in 2018 and 2019 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I was 26 at the time, working part-time while I was in graduate school. The money wasn't great, but the hours were flexible and I could work whenever I needed extra cash. Most deliveries were straightforward. Pick up food from a restaurant, follow GPS to an address, drop it off, take a photo, move on to the next one. I did hundreds of them. Apartment buildings, houses, dorm rooms, office parks. After a while, it all blurred together. But there was one delivery I will never forget. It happened on a Thursday night in November. Cold, drizzling rain, the kind of miserable weather that keeps most people inside ordering food instead of going out. I got a ping around 9:30 p.m. Chinese food, decent payout. The restaurant was close. I accepted it. Picked up the order 2 entrees, spring rolls, fried rice, and looked at the delivery address. It was in a neighborhood I didn't know well. An older part of the city, mostly residential, narrow streets with houses packed close together. A lot of the homes in that area had been converted into apartments, big old houses from the early 1900s chopped up into multiple units. The GPS took me down a street line with these converted houses. Porches stacked on top of each other, multiple mailboxes on each front door, that kind of setup. I found the address a tall, narrow house with peeling paint and a sagging front porch. The delivery instructions said, basement apartment, door around back. Knock twice. I've delivered to basement apartments before. Usually there's a separate entrance at ground level or down a short set of stairs. I grabbed the food and walked around the side of the house, looking for the door. There was a narrow walkway between this house and the one next to it, maybe 3 feet wide, unlit. I turned on my phone's flashlight and followed the walkway to the back of the house. The backyard was small and overgrown. Weeds, a chain link fence, a rusted-out bicycle frame lying in the grass. And there, set into the foundation of the house, was a door. It was a heavy wooden door, painted dark green about 6 feet below ground level. There was a concrete stairwell leading down to it 4 steps down into a sunken area in front of the door. The stairwell was surrounded by concrete walls on 3 sides like a little pit. No light, no windows nearby. Just a door at the bottom of a dark stairwell. Audio cue, light rain. I stood at the top of the stairs and looked down. The door had no peephole, no window, no visible doorbell. Just a brass handle and 2 hinges. I really didn't want to go down there. But the customer had paid, the food was getting cold, and I wanted to finish the delivery and move on. I pulled out my phone and checked the delivery instructions again. Knock twice. I walked down the 4 steps. My footsteps echoed in the small concrete space. I reached the door and knocked twice. Solid, heavy knocks. I waited. No sound from inside. No footsteps. No voice calling out, nothing. I knocked again. 2 more knocks louder this time. Still nothing. I checked my phone. No new messages from the customer. I thought about just leaving the food at the door and taking a photo, but the app required contact or confirmation on orders over a certain amount, and this one qualified. I tried the handle, just to see if the door was unlocked, thinking maybe they'd left it open and expected me to just leave the food inside. The handle turned. The door wasn't locked. I pushed it open a few inches and called out, "Hello, food delivery." The door opened in the complete darkness. I couldn't see anything inside. I shined my phone's flashlight through the gap. The light illuminated a narrow hallway. Bare walls, concrete floor, no furniture. The hallway extended maybe 10 feet and then turned to the right out of view. There were no lights on anywhere that I could see. "Hello?" I called again. "Your food's here." No response. I stood there for a moment, holding the bag of Chinese food, feeling a deep sense of wrongness about the whole situation. Every instinct I had was telling me to leave the food at the door and get out of there. But I'd had customers complain before when I didn't follow instructions exactly, and a bad rating could affect how many deliveries I got offered. I didn't want to risk it. I stepped inside, Just one step. Just far enough to set the food down inside the doorway instead of leaving it outside in the rain. The moment I stepped through the door, I heard something. A voice, faint, coming from deeper in the apartment. It said, "Come here." Audio cue. Whisper. It was a whisper. Barely audible. I couldn't tell if it was male or female. It was just a breathy, quiet voice coming from somewhere down that hallway. Every hair on my body stood up. "I'm just leaving your food inside the door," I said loudly. My voice sounded shaky. "Come here," the voice said again. Same whisper, same tone. It didn't sound angry or threatening. It sounded empty, flat, like someone speaking without any emotion at all. I set the bag down on the concrete floor as fast as I could and stepped backward out of the apartment. "Food's inside," I said. "Have a good night." I turned and climbed the stairs 2 at a time. I speed walked down the dark walkway back to the street, got in my car, locked the doors, and marked the delivery as complete. My hands were shaking. I sat in my car for a minute, trying to calm down. I told myself it was just a weird customer. Maybe someone elderly or disabled who needed help and couldn't come to the door. Maybe they were calling for a roommate or a caretaker. There were plenty of reasonable explanations, but the voice hadn't sounded like it needed help. It sounded like it was trying to lure me deeper into the apartment. I drove away and tried to put it out of my mind. The next night, Friday, I was out doing deliveries again. Around 10 p.m., I got a ping. I accepted it before looking at the details. When I checked the address, my stomach dropped. It was the same house, the same basement apartment. I stared at my phone in disbelief. The order was different pizza this time, from a different restaurant, but the address was identical. Same delivery instructions. Basement apartment, door around back. Knock twice. I canceled the order. I'd never canceled an order before, but I did not care. I was not going back to that apartment. The app warned me that too many cancellations could lead to deactivation. I accepted the warning and moved on. About 20 minutes later, I got another ping. I checked the address before accepting this time. It was the same house again, different order, sandwich shop, same address, same instructions. I declined it immediately. Over the next hour, that address came up 4 more times. Different restaurants, different orders, but always the same delivery location. The basement apartment. It was like someone was ordering food over and over again, cycling through different apps or accounts, trying to get anyone to come back to that door. Audio cue. Phone notification repeating. I stopped accepting orders in that part of the city. I changed my delivery zone settings to avoid that neighborhood entirely. But here's the part that still bothers me. About a week later, I was talking to another driver I'd met a few times at restaurant pickup spots. We were comparing stories about weird deliveries, and I mentioned the basement apartment without giving too many details. His face went pale. "Was it on Shiloh Street?" he asked. I felt a chill run down my spine. "Yeah." "How did you know?" "He told me he delivered to that address a few months before I did. Same basement door, same instructions. He'd knocked, no one answered, and he left the food at the door. But as he was walking back to his car, he heard the door open behind him. He turned around and saw someone standing at the top of the basement stairs. Silhouetted against the dim light from the street, they were holding the bag of food, just standing there. Not moving, not saying anything. He waved and got in his car. As he was pulling away, he looked in his rearview mirror and saw the figure still standing there, watching his car leave. They stood there until he turned the corner and lost sight of them. He said the thing that stuck with him was that the person never went back inside. They just stood at the top of the stairs in the rain, holding the food, watching him drive away. I asked him if he'd ever delivered there again. He said the address had come up 3 or 4 more times over the following weeks, but he declined every one. We both stopped talking about it after that. Neither of us wanted to keep discussing it. I quit doing deliveries a few months later for unrelated reasons, finished grad school, and got a full-time job. But sometimes I think about that basement apartment. I think about that voice in the dark, calling me to come closer. I think about the orders that kept coming night after night, like someone sitting in that apartment ordering food just to get people to come to the door. And I think about what might have happened if I'd listened to that voice. If I'd walked down that hallway, turned that corner, and gone deeper into the apartment to see who was calling me. I don't deliver food anymore. And I never will again.